Okay, welcome back for part 3 of my INIBUILDS A350 tutorial for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and today we're completing our long haul flight from Manchester to Orlando, and we're currently in our cruise at 36,000 feet, approaching our top of descent. So let's hop inside the flight deck and start setting up for our arrival. Right, so let's take a look at the nav display then. We can just see our top of descent marker there, and if we have a look at the en route map, we're just passing Jacksonville and we're going to fly right down the east coast of America. And let's just brief our arrival on the charts. We're going to be flying the BIFO 7 arrival down onto runway 18 right into Orlando. So we're going to be inbound 176 degrees, we're going to pass over the Ormond Beach VOR and all the way down to Jessup, and then Cosmo we need to be at 10,000 feet, and then we're going to continue down where we're going to be at 8,000 feet at BIFO. And then from there ATC would normally vector you down onto the runway, and this is what the approach chart looks like. So we're inbound 185 degrees, we're actually going to pick up our final approach fix at Tuffy and then intercept the glide slope at 2,200 feet and then down onto runway 18 right, and that's what it looks like on our descent profile. And we've also got our missed approach altitude. So let's also brief our missed approach. We're going to climb to 500 feet, turning right to 4,000 feet, heading 270 degrees and outbound on the Orlando VOR to Camp, where we're going to hold and continue to climb to 4,000 feet. And that is our missed approach briefed. And I'll pop our arrival chart back on screen just so we can follow along with that. And then we just need to enter some data for our arrival. So down to the FMS, and we're going to click on the performance button, which is just there, and then we're going to click on the approach tab, and that opens up all the data we need to fill out for our arrival. So back over to the tablet, and we're going to click on our landing performance tab, and we're going to sync the data from the FMS. So that brings in our runway, and then we're going to click on sync for the weather. It's actually got 0 wind, but we'll go with that, 16 degrees and QNH 1021. So wind direction 0, enter. So it should be a nice easy landing, shouldn't it? And then 0 for the wind speed. Don't know if that's a bug or if that's correct, but we'll go with it. Outside air temperature was 16 degrees, so we'll add that in as well. So outside air temperature 16, enter, and then our QNH was 1021. So I'll just click in the box, there we go, and 1021. And then enter. So there we go, that's all set. And then finally we need to add our minimums into the barrow. So back to the chart, and then I'll click on the approach chart and scroll right down to the bottom, and there we go. For a straight in ILS approach we've got minimum decision height of 294 feet. So let's add that in as well. Click in the barrow box, there we go, and 294, enter. Good, so that is our approach info all set, and then on the right we've got all our speeds. We've got a VREF of 128 knots, we're going to go flaps config full, and then we've got our approach ref of 133, so plus 5 knots for the wind correction. Okay, so that is our approach page complete, so we'll drop the flight plan back on screen and we can start thinking about making our descent. So let's just pop the en route map back on screen, and we'll have a little bit of a pause just before we start our descent and take a look outside. Right, so we are pretty much at our top of descent marker now. If we have a look at the nav display, you can just see the little blue arrow there. So let's open our arrival charts and just double check that first altitude constraint of 10,000 feet at Cosmo. So up to the FCU, and we'll wind in 10,000 feet and scroll it all the way down, so 10,000, and then we're going to pop the plane into managed descent, and my plan is to leave it in managed mode all the way down if possible. I'll intervene if I need to, but I just want to see how well the VNAV works in the A350 basically. But as you can see at the moment we're in managed descent, and we can also see our profile there as well on the nav display, which is really cool. So yeah, we're in a pretty good position. The plane's descending nicely. You can just see there we're actually a little bit low on profile. There's the green dot there, that needs to be in the middle, but that'll be fine. Okay, we're making pretty good progress. We're just approaching the Ormond Beach waypoint, which is just in front of us. If we have a look at the en route map, there's Ormond Beach right underneath us there. So that's looking good. And if we have a look at our arrival chart as well, we can just see ourselves appearing at the top there. There's a little pink plane, look. So we're inbound on that course of 176 degrees. And we can see now on our descent profile, we're looking pretty good. We're just about to pass through 20,000 feet. You can see the green dot is bang on the money, and we're currently descending at a nice comfortable 2,000 feet per minute. Okay, so we've just passed through our transition altitude of 18,000 feet. I can see the standard pressure is flashing on the PFD, so let's pop the plane into local pressure, which was QNH 1021. So that's all looking good. And back on the charts then, we can see ourselves inbound to Cosmo, where we need to be at 10,000 before dropping down to 8,000 at Bitho. And then normally ATC would then vector you in for the runway, but we're just going to follow our flight plan in. No ATC today, so that's all fine. And back on the approach chart then, and if we just scroll down to the bottom, we're going to be picking up our final approach fix at Tuffy. So we need to be at 2,200 feet. So let's pop that in to the FCU as well, and we'll just scroll all the way down. And if we click on the collar there, it changes to hundreds, so we can continue winding that down slowly but surely. 2,200 is set. Okay, if we just take a closer look at the nav display, you can see we're going to make our 8,000 feet constraint at Bitho. There's a little pink arrow, that's where we're going to level off, so that's all looking fine. And as we're getting a little bit closer now, I'll bring the range into 20 miles on the nav display. And as we're now approaching 10,000 feet, we can start popping some lights and signs on. So wing lights can go on, runway turn-off lights can go on. We'll put our nose wheel lights to take off, and we'll make the kids in the back sit down. So seatbelt signs on, and we'll give the cabin crew a quick bong as well. And everything else in the overhead panel is looking pretty good. So we're getting there. So we're all nicely set up and configured for our arrival. We'll have a little bit of a lull now just before we start our final approach, so let's do a little bit more sightseeing. Here's a gorgeous day, isn't it? Look at that. Beautiful. Right, so we are getting quite close to Orlando now, so I'm going to pop LS mode on, and that's this button here, and that just brings up the ILS data on the PFD. So we've got, bottom left, we've got our identifier code and our frequency and 20 miles to go. And if we just cross-reference that with what we've got on our approach chart, just double check we've got the right frequency tune. So we've got 111.9 on a course of 185 degrees, and that tallies with what we've got on the PFD as well. So that's all correct. And we're just starting our turn in right now as we pass over the Bitho waypoint. So we have not got too much further to go. As the sunlight starts creeping across the flight deck, I've got to say the shadows do look loads better in 2024, don't they? Much more realistic. Looks really cool. And we can just see the altitude constraint message has just popped up on the PFD, and that means it's going to adhere to the 3,000 feet at Hami. And we can see the plane's just starting to decel now, so we meet our speed constraint at Hami as well of 250 knots. That's shown by the little pink triangle on the PFD. And we can see our decel point as well on the nav display, so that's all good. So we're about 3 miles from Hami, so let's get the localizer on, and then once we've turned in left and we're established, we'll get approach mode set as well. And the airfield is down to our left, down there somewhere. It's a pretty cool approach, isn't it, into Orlando? And I think now is a pretty good time to start extending some flaps, so we'll go flaps 1. And we're just starting our turn in left now, so we can intercept our final approach fix. And as we can see on the PFD, we've now established on the localizer, and that was 2,500 feet to go on the call out. So let's go to our next stage of flaps and go flaps 2. And as we're fully established, let's imagine ATC has given us our clearance to land on runway 18 right. So let's get approach mode set. That's this button here. So approach mode is armed. And we've got just under 10 miles to go, and we have visual on runway 18 right in front of us there. So let's get our approach chart on screen. We can just see our little pink plane on the screen as we pass over our final approach fix at Tuffy, and we're bang on our 2,200 feet to intercept the glide slope. And in fact, if we check the PFD, you can see we've now intercepted the glide slope, so we can enter our missed approach altitude, which was 4,000 feet, if you remember. So we'll wind 4,000 feet into the window. So that's missed approach set. And 7 miles to go, so we will go gear down. Really great sounds on that landing gear. And that is the cabin secure. So we will go flaps 3. I'll just move my armrest out of the way, and we will arm the ground spoilers. So we'll run through a quick landing checklist. So we are geared down and 3 green. Our auto brake is set medium as well. Signs on, cabin is ready, ground spoilers are armed, and we will go flaps full, set. And that is the landing checklist complete.
1,000.
Right, so that's 1,000 to go. Let's have a little look outside before we disconnect the autopilot and hand fly our landing. Look at that. It looks so realistic, this. That is superb. Right, so we are all configured, fully stable, so let's disconnect the autopilot and hand fly our landing. So autopilot off, my controls. And this is quite an exciting landing today because I'm testing my newly purchased Wingwing Ursa Minor side stick, which feels really nice, I have to say. It's very smooth. So we're just following our flight directives. Just a little tweak. Nice and steady.
500.
So 500 to go.
400.
Check.
300. 200.
A little bit of a wobble.
100. 100 of it.
Light slow.
Get out of it.
30.
Retard.
20,
Throttles idle.
retard,
And touchdown. Reverse thrust green. Decel. Auto brakes on. Just hug the centre line. Not bad, I'll take that. And welcome to Orlando, guys. And we'll vacate here, and I'm going to wrap it up there for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, be sure to check out parts 1 and 2 where we went through setting up the plane from cold and dark along with our departure out of Manchester. But that's it for today. If you did enjoy it, give it a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.